right, guys. So this isn't deployed yet, but the intent of this is that one problem that we've been seeing when new onboardees come to Moonshot Collective and say they're still on the periphery, they're not yet like a member, contribute like a contributor with a stream. They're not sure where to find new issues to start working on, and this first issues board hopes to be like a hub for new people who are looking to contribute right now for devs. Maybe this becomes also a board for other types of work as well. But it's a quick resource. You come here and you can see like, oh, these are the active projects that have good first issues. I can go to a good first issue right
Are you
here.
sharing right now, by the way, Fame?
Yes.
Because we can't see it. See if you can share it.
Go here. Mhm. As,
All right. Do you want to start over with your spiel? I totally disrupted you.
Yeah, no worries. So basically, the intent of this is to have like a central space where new devs can find issues to start working on. So this board is a spot that anybody can come to and start looking for good first issues from GitHub. So the way this works is it uses the GitHub API to search for new any issue on active projects that has the label good first issue, and here you'll see a whole bunch of cards for each of the issues. Say, oh, I want to work on this, say this on pay party. I go here, takes me to the pay party issue, and the reason it got added was because it had this label on here, and somebody can start working on that. Of course, if it's a closed issue, you won't see it. It's only all the open good first issues. And here's also the link for the project itself at the top. Right now, it's very lean, not too much here, just mainly look, it should be like a resource that people kind of point to, but that's where I would say it is. Added some FAQs here, a few more useful links, potentially add more things as it's yeah, like I know like a lot of people who were joining had that issue where they weren't sure like, oh, where do I check, what things do I work on. Now we can just like point you to a URL and you can start working away on issues there.
So, as a product manager, when I'm sitting in there with Hans and I'm entering tickets, and Hans and I are like talking out how we're going to be adding, like what we're adding on the ticket, and I enter an issue. If we go, you know what, this would be a good, like Hans says, technically this would be a good first issue. I could go to the label on there while we're in there and tag it good first issue, and you're saying that that would automatically pull it over here.
Yeah.
Cool. So I don't even have to go here. I just know that if I tag it with that tag, then someone's going to see it on this end.
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, anything that is still an open issue that like somebody put the good first issue tag here, it'll get pulled. And eventually maybe this also pulls in Trello data as well if you want to expand it. And yeah, the main intent of this is just to be like an internal use board and further just make the whole onboarding and activation process more automated as much as
Is this using GitHub's API? Like, how are you parsing the good first issues?
yeah, it's using GitHub API to pull in. So I'm putting in the URLs for all the projects. So and it's searching the URLs, then searching issues, and then it's searching for the label, filtering, and then filtering the label.
And we can have custom labels, like say maybe it's not a good first issue, but an open issue that like somebody wants to look for. Like are there a way to add custom labels?
Yes. Right
Cool.
now I'm adding it here, but like maybe we'd have like a config file that it reads from, and it's reading this good first issue right here.
Sweet. That's awesome.
One nice thing I just found out too is like there's a lot better, like I'm using Next.js, the like things to like, I think Bliss worked on the Next.js scaffold ETH uh, repo, and yeah, it had Next.js is super awesome for like loading, especially a whole bunch of things at the same time. And I also use this like new library called use SWR, which does kind of like lazy loading combined with, there's also MC like context like API. It's using the React API, React context API, which is pretty nice for just passing around information. And I would say,
So I do have a question that I'm just kind of like highlighting a question down the bottom, but like in the chats. But are you able to pull ticket creator data out as well? And do people here think that would be helpful? And I say that because I see Anush bringing that up, but I also see, gosh, I'm Supriya. Did I say that right, Supriya? I see her plus wanting it, and she's new, and she's probably experienced. She's probably the most experienced with what we're talking about right now, with the challenges of the problem that you're solving for right now, because she's new, right? So I'm wondering if like, what do we think about in here there being the ticket creator, some sort of reference to the ticket creator, so they know who to reach out to.
No,
With
if
yeah,
they click, yeah, sorry, fine. No.
so I did save here like an output from the API. Yeah, but the output from the API does include the creator as well. So that's definitely something that we can include.
Interesting. Okay.
Either way, they can go to that ticket, and if you reply on that ticket, so it will trigger a message to the person who created the ticket, right? And they can reply.
Yeah, this is like a start off point, but for sure then the GitHub issue itself becomes the point of contact with the user, with the person who created it. So like as like conversations have been happening here, like that's the intent. But
Yeah,
I'm sure
also
like,
the reply comes little late. So like on the issue, if you are typing something like chat kind of thing, then it looks not disciplined. This is my reply.
like for sure
Also,
it kind of depends on like, hey, if somebody, when somebody does get a chance to reply, so that might be, are you referring to like something to be a bit more instant,
hmm.
like yeah, so some of those things in terms of, oh, is it kind of does depend on how fast somebody gets back to you on an issue. That is maybe not something we're trying to mitigate for, but just having a forum like, hey, like this was like a really good use case where uh, Emmanuel did take the issue on, and then he does say like, oh, he's currently working on it. So that definitely solves some coordination issues right there. And we'd hope like that's why these issues would become, as somebody, I would see like going further, if somebody is working on an issue, like say Emmanuel is assigned this ticket, then this will get filtered out too from here as well. So you wouldn't see that if somebody is already like taking that up.
So one easy solution that I'm seeing a news pop in here that could be pretty simple is if, so in your first issues, so like in the database that you have locally running that would be like popped up on whatever this is, I'm sure you have like the different projects that it's crawling for saved somewhere. What if you also had like a point of contact for each project saved in here, so that if it pulls from one, it already knows on your server to add that person as the point of contact outside of this entirely, right? Like then you don't even have to worry about the ticket creator anymore. You can just say like, you could make point of contacts for pay party like Hans and Brent, right? And for tip party like Samir and Fahim, or you could do like, or Varun, right? Like you could just hard code who the contact person is.
I kind of do see it as like because this information, whoever created this ticket, does come along in the API. So I can add that like point of contact right there.
I see what the thing there where this could fail though is, let's say someone completely random outside of the project adds a great ticket, a great issue, and then Hans and I are sitting in there going, hey, this is a great issue, but Hans and I are still the two holders of the most context of the project as a whole.
Correct.
So when Hans and I are sitting there filtering through it, and then we go, you know what, let's go ahead and move this over here, let's turn it into a good first issue, then it would point to a person that we don't necessarily wanted to point to, not because they wouldn't know, but just because we're bigger keepers of the context.
Yeah, that makes sense. That
I'm just
like
wondering out loud. Yeah.
No, that's a good issue to add there, like to have on the board, and yeah, to have like
yeah. I wonder if there's a pretty, since we're like flying on Web 2 tech here, which is like part of the beauty of Web 2 tech is that they built these things to be changed and done well, right? I wonder if there's almost like an easy dashboard or like an easy admin login, a lazy login that it just lets you change that one thing that you could then share the username and pass, so that if anybody changes, like let's say I bring in another product manager, and me and Hans are labeled as the ones for pay party, and that other product manager starts taking over some of the work, I'd be like, hey, Fahim, I want to update it to say Hansen, new product manager, right? So like we have some sort of login point to where you're not the only person who has to change those things if they change.
No, yeah, that's actually a really good point. Yeah, thank you also bringing that up. That really worked. Yeah, having.
But I would also find like the fastest path to that possible. Like you don't need to make like multiple admin user accounts. Like on our end, to keep it lean, you could have like one literal admin user account that can change that one thing, and you could share that password internally amongst trusted individuals in the collective, and that's good enough for a lean solution.
I might think about like having something on a Notion or on a Trello that anybody can edit, and this pulls that in.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, like at like one point of thing for each of those where it pulls like
point of contacts or like
yeah,
just
and then parses it correctly. Yeah, you could. Oh, I'd hack that together with you. That would be fun.
Yeah, something that's just a central source of active projects, so we can always like easily update that.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And then we could just manage it on a permissions level through Notion or whatever the heck we are, rather than having to worry about managing the admin access itself.
Yeah.
That's even leaner. I like that.
Because we could use Trello or Notion, like if you want like
Trello
no
too.
permissions Trello, like, but yeah, Notion as well, and just use that API to pull in that information, and anybody could go in and just like change that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. You could even, if you wanted to, if it made it easier for pulling information. We'll look at it let's look at it when we look at Notion. That was one of the things that you and I were talking about anyways, was exploring what kind of API stuff Notion has. If we had to, you could always use something like Google Spreadsheets and do the same thing, and then manage its permissions from a link. And Google Spreadsheets literally integrates with like everything, right? So there are other lean solutions, but you and I were going to go down the path to see what information we could pull from Notion anyways, so we could find out at the same time.
Cool. Sounds good.
This is great.
Yeah, like giving the feedback on the spot like this, like, is pretty awesome. Like, not something that I was like, oh, this is something that I was going to integrate, but like now that's definitely like on the top of the list for sure.
Yeah, we're building and dogfooding and building in real time. Our feedback loops are incredibly thin. This is great.